Greetings, people who really like the accordion. And I know you really like the accordion because if you didn't, you wouldn't be sitting here watching these hideous videos. In my previous video, number 7A, Blackwater, I played a song that I wrote and I played it the whole way through. Now, as you should know by now from my previous videos, I don't like to perform. I really don't. I'll play here in my room, in my office, by myself, and I'll play well. Actually, sometimes I play beautifully. But when somebody watches or listens, I can't play to save my life, and I make many, many boo-boos. So, I played that song, broke my rule, and I did it because of this. In the Blackwater song, here's the chords for the verse. A professional might say, oh, that's an easy song. Any dummy can play that. Actually, any dummy can write a song like that because it's easy. But for many beginners and maybe even one or two intermediate players, they might discover something that I would call tricky spots. They might say, oh, there's a tricky spot there. What do I do? For example, you have to go from E flat major excuse me, to D minor. All right? Now for the professional, that's no big deal. But for the beginner, E flat to D minor could be tricky. Now, to go from E flat to D minor, the traditional way, you would go from the E flat bass with the E flat major chord button, and you would have to jump, that's this arrow, jump all the way down to the D bass and the D minor chord button. Now I'm not going to go on and on today. You can pause this and look at it, or you can always go to your handy chart that I mentioned 5 million times, and you can check it out by looking at the chart. But the point is, the traditional way, that simple progression, means you take a big jump. And it's hit or miss. You could hit it or you could miss it. Generally, if I play the traditional way, I miss it. Now, the 5-finger way, my way, or the way I was shown by Mr. Roberts, you're down here on the E flat major button with the E flat bass button and the E flat major chord button, and all you do is just slide right over to the D counterbass. And then you play the F minor button with that D counterbass. See the connecting line? Once again, you can always pause the video and see the connecting lines and see the progression, see the jumps, big or small. But this is the 5-finger way. I move from the E flat bass to the D counterbass, throw in the F major chord button, and I get the D minor 7. You see, the traditional way, E flat to D minor, which is more difficult, all right? Or my way, instead of the D minor, you play the D minor 7. It's a richer sound, it's nicer, and it's easier. Now, if we move to the chorus, right away, I see something that I think for a beginner might be a tricky thing. Going from the D7 to the A flat or the A flat to the D7, either way, it doesn't matter. Right? That could be a tricky thing. That could be a problem for a beginner. It could be a headache. So, let's look at how you play that the traditional way. Traditional, like normal people do. So you're down here on your A flat bass with your A flat major button. Then you have to jump all the way down to the D and then throw in the D7 chord button. That's a really big jump. And quite frankly, most of the time, I miss it when I try to make that jump. I just miss it. So that's the traditional way. Once again, you can pause this and study it, or you can, if you're pretty smart, you can grasp it immediately and move on and start to play wonderful things. Now, if you want to do that D7 to A flat or A flat to D7, the 5-finger way, all right? Now the chart looks a little funky here, but it's a whole lot easier. You got your A flat bass and your A flat major chord button, and you just move over here to the D counter bass. See, it's much closer than the other jump in the traditional way. And then you catch the A diminished chord button with the thumb. I've shown you that I don't know how many times, that thumb. You catch it with the thumb. It's real easy. You got that little stretch thing going. Hey, you know, you have 5 fingers, you might as well use them. So that's the 5-finger way to do that. You can pause it, check it out, or go back to the previous video and actually watch me, excuse me, actually watch me play it, watch my fingers, and you can watch it over and over, and you can see which fingers I use and how I do it. But at some point, if you adapt the 5-finger system for your own personal playing, you're actually going to be able to figure this out on your own, and my videos won't be necessary. In fact, I'm probably not going to make many more. So, oh yeah, getting back to the chorus. Getting back to the chorus, there's this there's this little thing here, the C minor chord with the A counterbass, and then the D7 chord. Okay, you got that little thing there in the chorus. Now, that's not that difficult, but for some it might be, so I'd like to talk about it just for a few minutes. The traditional way is you can just play a C minor and move right over to the D7 in the traditional way, the regular way. That's easy. But in the 5-finger way, to get a little bit sweeter sound, all right, a little bit sweeter and a little bit, I would say easier for me because I'm used to it, is I would use the C minor chord button with the A counter bass button. You can see it on here. See the A counter bass, and then the C minor chord button. That goes together. That gives you the C minor with the A bass, and then you just move right over. Look at that, right over to the D counter bass, and then you catch the A diminished chord button with the thumb, as I mentioned earlier. You can catch that little thing there with the thumb. So you're going from A counterbass to D counterbass, and the chord buttons, if you practice this and watch the previous video, it'll just fall into place and your fingers will know right where to drop. Boom, you're done. And the only thing left to say on that is, we talked about this C minor chord button with an A counterbass. Now ordinarily, in traditional terminology, people would say, oh, that's a C minor 6. I personally don't look at it this way, and I don't do it this way in my book, but the point is, everybody likes their own way, so you pick whatever you like. In the C minor 6 terminology, or excuse me, name, you would have the C, E flat, G, and A. But as you see it here, and as we played in the song, you actually have an A minor 7 with a diminished fifth. Because you have the A in the bass, then you have your C, E flat, and G. So you actually have an A minor 7 chord, but since you have the E flat, that's a diminished 5. I think I'm speaking correctly here. I just wanted to throw that in because that's a really nice chord you can play on the accordion in many different songs. I use it all the time. I love it. So that's it for today. Hard to believe, huh? Didn't even have to pick up the accordion. It was not necessary. Watch the previous video if you really want to figure this out and get past the tricky spots. And if anybody out there actually has friends who play instruments, which I don't, and can play nicely, you're welcome to play the song. It's a nice little Celtic piece. I'm supposedly half Italian, but I write mostly Celtic songs. Isn't that weird? I have a lot of really nice Celtic songs. Maybe I'll post a couple more. I don't know. So that's it. So good luck with that. And that's it for today. Good night.